I was watching the new Fallout show and thinking, what is it that makes Fallout so good? Is it the power armor or the vaults, the conspiracies, the humor? No, all of those things have been explored to death in other games. There's really one thing that I think makes Fallout work so well as a show and as a game, and it's this: contrast. Light and dark. Opposites. The safety and security of the vaults versus the complete anarchy outside. The best of humanity versus the absolute worst of humanity. We see this in the first episode of the show as the safety and serenity of a vault is invaded by the ultra-violence of the people outside. This idea has always carried through in the games as well. My first few hours playing Fallout 4 for the first time, I had heard incredible things about the game, but was initially not impressed. What I saw was a drab, lifeless, dead world with nothing to do in it. But once I carried on and kept playing Fallout 4, I soon realized that the drab, empty world was a perfect backdrop to the colorful cast of people, characters, and quests I would soon encounter. In the same way putting a solid white color behind a beautiful sculpture is going to draw your eye to it to enhance its beauty, in the same way the drab world of Fallout makes the moments of humanity pop off the page. Fallout's lack of color makes the color of its inhabitants pop even more. Take, for example, Nick Valentine, the synth detective who talks like a hard-boiled 1940s cop from a film noir movie. Prior to this, I was just in Diamond City, a settlement of humans who are on a witch hunt to find any synths among them. So I think, why did they let Nick live among them? And that's a longer story for another time. Perhaps as your power armor sloshes through the lake near ArcJet Labs, you hear Diamond City Radio come through the static. A timid man full of self-doubt and completely lacking confidence named Travis comes on the radio. He's the opposite of everything a radio DJ is supposed to be. Track him down and you can stage a hilarious series of events to help him get his confidence back. Or what about Kent Connolly? He's a man who got turned into a ghoul by the radiation but has always been an avid comics lover. He tells you what he thinks this world needs: a hero. In a multi-part quest, he asks you to dress up in the costume of a comic book character called the Silver Shroud to go and fight crime. This is all to give him and other people hope that justice still exists in the world. This is the kind of depth and warmth and character that Bethesda imbues every character in Fallout with. Now contrast this with an Ubisoft game where you go from enemy camp to enemy camp to enemy camp, killing all the bad guys. Now Fallout 4 does have a decent amount of procedural content in it. There are still areas that just spawn new bad guys in constantly, but for the most part, what you find in Fallout 3, 4, and New Vegas is almost entirely handcrafted quests. This is something we rarely get in games at all anymore. In 2024, an age with AI where everything's made by a computer now, it feels really nice to play a game where everything feels handcrafted and made by a human. Although I've only praised Fallout 4 so far, most people would say the quests in Fallout 3 and New Vegas are even better. In Fallout 3 in Megaton, there's a character named Lucy West who asks you to deliver a message to her family in Arifu. You arrive there and find the family has apparently been murdered and there's a message scrawled in blood. You track down some hints and find that the killers are in an organization called the Family. And this group is trying to slake their thirst for human flesh by instead learning to drink human blood. Better than the alternative, I suppose. Dig a bit deeper and the cult is led by a man named Vance, and the cultists have a specific set of commandments they are allowed to follow. You finally meet Ian West, the youngest boy in the family that was killed, and find out the family didn't kill his parents at all. He did. In an elaborate set of conversations, you can either convince Ian West to come back with you, kill the cult, or allow him to stay. Again, this kind of depth and complexity of story isn't really something you find in Ubisoft and other big, empty, open-world games like Horizon Zero Dawn. And by the way, I love many Ubisoft games, but this feeling of every encounter being handcrafted just isn't something you get. In Far Cry 3, as fun as that game is, I'm literally going to 100 towers and killing every single guard I see, over and over and over again. The Fallout games are completely different. It also should be said here that Fallout is obviously not your average first-person shooter game. The single-player campaigns of Call of Duty and Battlefield drive you through a linear story and a linear set of missions. There is a main quest in the Fallout games, but that's not really the point of Fallout. The best stuff in Fallout is found when you wander off the path. Another thing I've heard many people say brings them back to the Fallout games again and again is the gameplay loop. Visualize this: you're suited up in power armor, you're venturing out in the wasteland, coming in contact with raiders, thieves, ghouls, mirelurks, deathclaws, and all manner of beast and person that wants to kill you. While this is all going on, you're using VATS to slow down time so those pipe gun bullets slowly obliterate that mutant skull. Also, while you're doing this, you're jamming out to the catchiest doo-wop music from the 40s and 50s you've ever heard on Galaxy News Radio. Three Dog, the local DJ, comes on the radio to announce this, quote, new person he met in the wasteland and how that person has given us all hope. He's talking about you, of course, and this is just a random event that happens sometimes. After destroying anything that moves with your phaser gun, you go back to your house in Megaton, save any trinkets, and sell everything else you found for scrap. When I talk about the highly addictive vibe of the Fallout games, this is the feeling that has been explained to me. There's just something about wandering that open wasteland, killing stuff, meeting interesting characters, and listening to 1950s music. It is truly a vibe. And of course, there's a main quest you can follow in the Fallout games, but the thing I've heard from people again and again is they just like listening to music and vibing out in this world. Another thing that's made me put over 1,000 hours into these games is just simply the writing, the characters, and the interesting scenarios and choices you find yourself in. As I'll explain in a minute, there are downsides to the Fallout games. The AI is not good, the gunplay is not good, the graphics are not good. But if there was one gleaming feature that I think makes me keep playing these games, it's gotta be the interesting quests and the writing. While at the Ultralux Casino in New Vegas, you meet an old rancher at the bar who's missing his son. The game doesn't really give you much to go on, but you begin to investigate a reporter who went missing as well. This leads you on a game of whodunit around the hotel, which culminates in you finding out that the rancher's son is being cooked for dinner that night. In a weird twist of events, you can either kill everyone involved, make the casino patrons think they're having human flesh and catch them in the act, or in an insane turn, tell the casino patrons that you're a cannibal too. Outside of the writing and characters just being incredible in the Fallout games, I love that these games will let you basically kill anybody at any time. In Fallout 3, the usual path is for people to get to the slaver camp in the western part of the map and do the obvious right thing. Kill everyone and free all the slaves. However, if you've been stealing things the whole game and your karma is really low and you're basically a bad person, when you finally get to the slaver camp, they will welcome you in and talk about how much they've heard about you. The opportunities for role-playing and interesting situations in the Fallout games is truly endless and what makes these games so fun. Okay, so before we go on, I shortly want to dive into another topic, and that's things that might turn you off from the Fallout games. If you've come from Call of Duty or GTA or most modern games, you're going to notice a few deficiencies the Fallout games have, and I want to explain some of these and why us fans have learned to look past them. Problem number 1. In Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, there is no run button. Yeah, I know, it's miserable. This is one of the first things that people will mod into the PC version of these games. It is really tough not having a run button in 2 of the Fallout games. But hey, if you're loving the game, you probably will get over it quick. Problem number 2, the AI in the Fallout games is really bad, and also fighting with a melee weapon feels very unsatisfying. If you're looking for incredible AI, like AI that outsmarts you and outflanks you and fights like a convincing human, you're not going to find that in the Fallout games. Just like Skyrim, fights involving melee weapons become super repetitive and you can literally feel your brain cells dying sometimes. I think melee was improved in Starfield, but in the Fallout games, it's not great. Problem number 3, don't let this discourage you, but the graphics are not great. I bounced off of the Fallout games multiple times because I thought the graphics were so bad. But then I kept playing these games and I realized the graphics are like the least important thing about the game. Please do not let the bad graphics of Fallout 3 and New Vegas discourage you from playing these games. Like I've said before, it's the characters and the dialogue and the real impactful choices you make along the way that really are the star of the game. Okay, so moving on to the last half of this video, I want to answer the question, which Fallout game should I play first? This might earn me some enemies, but I personally would avoid the first 2 Fallout games unless you're very comfortable with archaic, isometric CRPGs from the 90s. Fallout 1 and 2, although they are amazing games and literally created the world of Fallout, I found them to be very hard to play. The first Fallout game I think you should play is either Fallout 3, Fallout 4, or Fallout New Vegas. These 3 games are the most iconic single-player experiences of Fallout. These games are how Fallout is meant to be played. However, if you really want a multiplayer experience, I would recommend Fallout 76. Why a lot of fans of the Fallout games dislike 76 so much is because it's not really a Fallout game. What I mean is that while Fallout 76 has all the trappings and decoration of a Fallout game, you really can't affect the world in any real way because it's a shared world with a complete lack of consequences. In Fallout 3, you'll hear the radio DJ mention you personally. In Fallout New Vegas, the choices you make in the game affect the outcome of the entire game world. That would never happen in Fallout 76 because it's a shared world. In Fallout 4, you can reload your save at any point. In Fallout 76, because it's an always online world, there are no saves. If you miss something, you have to find a way to replay the quest, perhaps on another character, because the world never stops for you. So the idea of interesting quests or handling things in different ways is completely absent from Fallout 76. Also, from the 50 or so hours I put into Fallout 76, I just found the characters, story, and writing to be incredibly bland. That being said, though, what are your options for playing Fallout with friends? Literally, Fallout 76 is the only way you can do that. So I don't want to discount that 76 is desirable to a certain segment of the population. I just think for most of us Fallout fans, the game by necessity of its very design has to be a single-player game. In Fallout New Vegas, when you finally meet Mr. House, you have the option to kill him. I'm sure everyone who has ever done this has killed him and then possibly reloaded their save if they ended up not liking that decision. But you can't reload saves in Fallout 76, so it's a completely different kind of game. So essentially, if you can handle a 90s CRPG, possibly play the first two Fallouts. If you really want a multiplayer game, play 76. Well, what about these 3 games in between? Which of these 3 should I play first? Because these are probably the 3 that get recommended the most. Well, if you really love the idea of stepping into a big suit of power armor that feels weighty and heavy, you probably need to play Fallout 4 first. Fallout 4 is a great game, although some people felt the NPCs were less interesting and the repeating quests can be a little bit samey. But one thing Fallout 4 undoubtedly nailed was how cool power armor felt. It started feeling much more like Iron Man getting into his suit in Fallout 4. Power armor is much, much more downplayed and not really a big deal at all in Fallout 3 and in New Vegas. Another thing that should be mentioned if you're on console is the run button. There is no run button in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, although on PC you can easily mod this feature in. But if having a run button is a big deal for you, this could be a deal breaker. Of the 3 games shown here, if you want my personal recommendation, I would say play New Vegas first. There is a reason that New Vegas is the most celebrated Fallout game in the Pantheon. The writing is incredibly funny, the situations the game gets you into are hilarious, and writing in New Vegas is just so much better than the other Fallout games. If I had to rank these 3 Fallout games in the order you should play them, I would say New Vegas first, then Fallout 4, then Fallout 3. I know there are a lot of people who go to bat for Fallout 3, and there are things I love about 3, but I just found that the main quest in Fallout 4, the world, the graphics, the base building, the characters, I just found that there was a lot more to love about Fallout 4 than Fallout 3. Also, your actions can actually affect the main quest in Fallout 4 quite a bit, whereas in Fallout 3 you basically have no effect on the main quest. Okay, Andrew, so you might ask, why play Fallout 3 at all then? I would play Fallout 3 because it has some of the most twisted choices you can make in a game, some of the darkest quests, some of the most interesting characters, and it is one of the few Fallout games that literally lets you be evil. I also just found Fallout 3 to be quite a bit harder than all the other Fallout games, and that definitely includes New Vegas and Fallout 4. To give you an example of some of the horrible stuff you can do in Fallout 3, when you get to the slaver camp, there's this dude named Eulogy Jones, and he keeps these women around as slaves and is basically their pimp. And he will give you these women if you want, and you can choose to free them or keep them as slaves. There's also another quest you can do, I think, for the slavers where you literally just go around enslaving like 3 people. It's pretty dark stuff. On the bright side, though, Fallout 3 has some of the best quests in any of the Fallout games. The Ant-Man and Antagonizer quest is awesome. There's a town in the northeast of the map called the Republic of Dave, where this guy has made himself the president of the town and keeps voting himself in, and you can go in and change the voting. If I had to compare the graphics of the Fallout games, I would say Fallout 3 and New Vegas kind of look the worst because they came out in 2008 and 2010. And Fallout 4 looks quite a bit better, and then Fallout 76 looks quite a bit better. Another thing I loved about Fallout 4 was, of course, the base building, but also how deep you could go into the factions. In Fallout 3, you can't really align to any faction, but in Fallout 4, you can become a member of various factions, and if you do stuff for or against them, then they find out about it. I don't want to spoil anything, but the ending of Fallout 4 was incredibly satisfying for me because I got to kill exactly the people who I thought deserved to be killed, and for the most part truly got the ending to the game that I wanted. All right, I'm going to get out of here, but just to sum this all up, if you want multiplayer, Fallout 76 is your only option for that. If you need good graphics in order to play a game, play Fallout 4 or play 76. If you need a run button, don't play Fallout 3 or New Vegas. If you want the funniest and best dialogue, definitely play Fallout New Vegas. If you want an open world with tons of secrets, either play New Vegas or Fallout 3. Finally, if you want the best quests, I would say either play Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 3. Picking a favorite Fallout between 3, 4, and New Vegas is like picking your favorite child. It's impossible to do. Fallout 76 is basically the half-human gremlin child that lives in the basement that nobody talks about. All right, I'm out.